edition of Deals and Deadlines with the World Traveler, our super agent, business insider, Hadley Engelhard. I'm Matt Chernoff. Thanks so much for joining us. If you're new around here, this is our sports business podcast where we talk all things about the business side of sports, and we have a lot to cover today, Hadley. First of all, though, tell us where you've been, because we haven't had an episode in a while now. You've been spanning the globe.
I have fortunately been following my son, who plays pro baseball and has also got an opportunity to play for the Israeli national baseball team in the European Championships in Rotterdam, outside of Amsterdam. And so we just got back. He had an amazing tournament. We had a great time and got to see, you know, another part of the world that we love to be in.
Love it. Well, good to have you back. All right, let's start with the business of college football, which let me give you a couple of numbers I want to start with here. College football so far through the first quarter of the season, viewership is up 10.5%, which is music to the ears of networks and college football in general, which always leads to then following the money, right? As the sport continues to get bigger, it's NFL 2.0. Hadley, we've talked about private equity entering college football and tried to sort of come up with the machinations of how it would. Well, sources say the Big Ten is in discussions about a private capital deal that would infuse at least $2 billion with a B, $2 billion into the conference and its schools. The discussions include a 10-year extension of the league's grant of rights until 2046. So I still have questions about how the money's going to be not divvied up. I know that's going to happen. How those giving the funds are going to get something back, but it's happening.
Yeah, listen, we've talked about this time and time again. This is the way college sports is going now. It's sort of like a media play now. And they're acting like business entities in the entertainment world. Until it's finally said and done, the problem is with the Big Ten is you have public universities and private universities. How does that work together? How does it work with a Northwestern and their name, image, and likeness versus a Michigan and Ohio State? So I think there's a lot of things that still have to be worked out, but I think the future shows that there's going to be influx of money. And then you talked about it, what's the return on investment for these private equity companies? And they're not happy. I think they are. Okay. I think anyone that's investing in this is looking for some sort of return, whether it's the part of being part of it and or the financial part of it, because you want to sell it at some point and have the ability to show, hey, we made this much money on it. And so are they going to have say-so in certain things that the conference does? And so I think there's a lot. It sounds great, and I think it's going to happen to some degree, but I think there's more questions that need to be answered first before they figure out how it works with all these different types of universities.
Okay, that leads us also to the continued expansion. We always have expansion in sports because of the money. So the College Football Playoff Committee is at least saying publicly they're comfortable staying with 12 teams, which we have now, for not only this year, which is already set, but for 2026. College football execs have a requirement to let ESPN know by December 1st if they want to expand 2026's college football playoff beyond the 12 teams. I, for one, think that, you know, I never believe when they're comfortable staying. I think it's always a negotiating point. You know how this works, too. That I think it's a matter of time that this 12 becomes 14, eventually becomes 16. It'll stop there for a minute, and then we'll expand even more. I just don't know the time. Do you really think they're comfortable now, or would they like to see this expand as quickly as possible to get the
I think for now they're fine, but I think it's a short-term fine. I believe that this will end up being a change sooner than later in the next year to 2 years. And I agree with you. They're going to expand it and keep on expanding it because, again, I hate this. I feel like a record that keeps playing over and again. It's all about the money, and it's about giving other teams the opportunity. I do believe they will give the power conferences buys, and it'll be like basketball, these play-in games to get in the tournament. And so it's great. The fans love it. Interesting thing about my trip to Europe, and just talking to people there while I was traveling about sports, and believe it or not, to try to find a restaurant/bar to watch NFL Sunday wasn't that easy. Mainly because of the time difference. And I asked a lot of fans, sports fans, about college sports and college football in particular. And it's amazing that it is irrelevant to them, at least in the Netherlands. They don't care anything about it. Now you talk about NFL, they all have their favorite teams. You talk about the NBA, they all have their favorite teams. You talk about Major League Baseball, they have no clue. So it was interesting to see that dynamic. But again, that's about broadening the horizon. Adding more teams to a playoff only adds more viewership.
But I think what you're saying, we do sound like a broken record. Yes, follow the money, it's about the money, but it's important to remember, because we as fans always say, we don't need this. We don't want more teams. We don't need more teams. It's not ever what it's been about. This is not about leveling playing fields, giving Cinderella a chance, making the sport more equitable. They say those things, but as we talk about all the time, Hadley, there's only so much real estate left.
Correct.
When you build houses on the block, you got to build more somewhere else. So let's find some more space, which means adding more teams, which piggybacks. Go ahead.
And then, no, let me to add to that. So I was not a big fan of the Major League Baseball playoff expansion. I just thought, hey, we've got the wild card. It's enough. We've had 162 games, more than enough to determine who's ready for the playoffs. These last few nights, this best out of 3 was awesome.
Yeah.
And it was must-see TV. And so I really enjoyed it. And I think, again, if other leagues can parlay into that and not make it too long, then I think it's worthwhile. It's must-see TV. And again, more revenue, more for the teams, more for the players.
Somebody's not reading the rundown. We were going to get to the baseball in a little bit. No, we'll get to that coming up. So to piggyback on the college football, now we have executives who say we're inching closer to an agreement to expand the NCAA tournament to 76 teams. We're going to go from 64 to 68 to 76 with a 12-game opening round that will be played at 2 sites. Starting in the 2026-27 season, Ross Dellinger had this report. It's the same story, right? We're going to have opening round games, and it's going to be bad basketball, right? We're going to have 15 and 14 Manhattan playing, the number 10 team from the SEC who's got an under 500 record. It doesn't matter. It's not what it's about. It's not who's deserving and who's not. We have more playoff game, or in this case, tournament games that now the networks can sell. They're standalone games. It's like what we have the first 4 in Dayton. Picture that now expanded even more. And here's the news. They're not stopping at 76. Eventually, it's going to go to 88 and 96. And
every team, when the season begins, is going to be in the tournament eventually. No, in all seriousness, again, they're going to use other nights earlier in the week. So these teams will play twice in that week. But no one cares because, again, it's open nights. It gives people an opportunity to watch teams. There'll be some upsets, which make it even more interesting. And so it's must-see TV for basketball. And I think it's smart to do it. It gets bad when it gets too much, and you have teams that are such irrelevant,
it's not gonna be
and
good
you have
basketball.
losing teams. No. And I agree with you. When you have the 10th seed in the SEC that won 4 conference games, yes, you can make the argument that, hey, the conference is strong, but they don't belong in the tournament. And so it'll be some arguing about which teams belong in that. But again, it's Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night before the tournament begins on Thursday. So I just think it's filling in an empty void available.
Let's talk about this. For those who are bothered, and I understand, you don't have to watch, right? I mean, it's not compelling, it's not good sports or good TV or good basketball in this case. Here's the difference in the college basketball and in the college football. In college basketball, the regular season's become irrelevant anyway, and it became irrelevant when the tournament expanded to 64 teams, which we were having these arguments in the 80s about it being too much when it went from one day 16 to then 48 teams and now to 64. The difference in college football, and so far, Hadley, this is the good news, the expanded playoff, NIL, portal, it's not hurting the game. And here's my proof. The ratings are higher than they've ever been. College football stadiums are still full. The chatter is still as loud, and I'm so happy because that's the last thing I wanted was the business side to hurt the game, and it hasn't.
Yeah, I had a conversation with somebody earlier this week that's involved in college basketball at a high level, and they said point blank, it is at the peak of the game right now. The excitement is there. People are eager for this upcoming season. This conference crossover matchups between the SEC and the ACC has created excitement. There's some great basketball in front of us. And so adding these games lets people like us talk about it. It gives other teams an outside chance. And so I just think it's great for the product. Again, like you, if you don't like it, and I'm one of those guys, I probably wouldn't watch those first few days. But again, it gives them chance to advertise, which gives teams more money. And now that they have to share revenues with the players, it now gives them an opportunity to have more money for their budgets. And that gets back to the private equity because you need that kind of money because you're making less money to go ahead and have it out there so you could build the facilities and compete with the big teams.
And to spend and hope these TV deals get bigger, you got to provide more content. That's more content. All right, sources are saying now, and Pete Tham was one who had one of these reports. Georgia Tech and Under Armour have signed a new 10-year deal for Under Armour to become the official apparel provider of Georgia Tech starting July 1st, 2026. The deal is expected to be worth nearly 6 times more on average for Georgia Tech than its current deal with Adidas. Now, Ryan Alpert's the new athletic director at Georgia Tech, and while Tech they're not doing poorly money-wise, they're not as flush with money as, say, SEC teams, a Georgia, an LSU, a Tennessee. So every one of these deals is very big for Georgia Tech. This is a huge deal.
Huge deal, and Under Armour is now back in football. They're back in the NFL. And so Kevin Plank is back at the helm, and so they're doing a lot of things on the financial side to become relevant again. They kind of took a backseat to Nike and Adidas over the last several years. So it's a big move, smart move by Georgia Tech, and it'll allow them to have good branding. You know, Auburn just left Under Armour, so again, it opened up an opportunity in the South, and I think it's a smart move for Tech. They need the influx of money. They need the branding. They can never go with Nike because they would always be the stepchild to Georgia. So they had to either go with Adidas or Under Armour. Great opportunity, and it's going to be a great situation for Georgia Tech and for Under Armour.
All right, coming up, we'll talk about why baseball continues to make this head-scratching decision at its most important time. We'll talk about a big change for the Atlanta Braves, and one of the biggest streamers out there is now in the baseball business. We'll cover that next as Deals and Deadlines continues. As we continue with this episode of Deals and Deadlines, hi, I'm Matt. My friend over here, that's Hadley Engelhard. That's our super agent and our sports business insider. Deals and Deadlines, if you're new to this is our weekly sports business podcast that we drop new episodes each and every Friday, available on all podcast platforms. And we'd love you to watch us on our 680 The Fan YouTube channel. All right, Hadley, let's start right here. Baseball's postseason is in full swing, and as you ruined the tease a little bit earlier, but talking about how compelling the games have been, and they really have been. They've been good. I still sit here and I wonder why baseball likes to treat its business like it's 1885 or 1895 instead of 2025, that we're still playing its most important games Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays at 1 o'clock. There was a playoff series that happened with the Guardians and the Tigers during the afternoon, the Cubs and the Padres during the afternoon. I want you to picture if I came and said, Hadley, the Ravens are going to play the Bills Tuesday at 1 o'clock in a playoff game. You'd go, Matt, that's insane. Why is baseball still doing this?
You know, I don't know the rationale other than there's only so many time slots. They've got to get stuff done. They've expanded the playoffs, so they got to get these games in. If you recall, when there was the one-game matchup, those games were at night.
Correct.
The fact that now it's a best out of three and there's so many teams involved in it, there's only so many time slots. And of all the sports, the one sport that has had afternoon games notoriously, definitely on the weekends, and even during the week. We have a gentleman's special here in Atlanta, once a month, let's say. And so playing during the day is nothing that's out of the norm for baseball. But it does take away from viewership, but it is the wild card. Mm-hmm. And so as we get into the playoffs, there will still be some afternoon games.
Sure.
There'll be a 4 o'clock start time, and that's just the way baseball's been. And I'm okay with it personally, but I get why the advertisers and why the money, and that may be part of the reasoning why they're in third place when it comes to the NFL and the NBA as far as media rights deals.
So a couple of thoughts on that. It's always been that way. It's not a great rationale in life of this is why we're doing this. It's always been that way. My belief is simple, that if you put those games on during the wild card round at night, you have a 7:15 start, an 8 o'clock start, an 8:45, and 9:30. You give people a chance to pick their games. I still think you'd get more people watching at night than you're going to get who can't watch a 1 o'clock baseball game or a 3 o'clock baseball game. And my thinking on this is it's kind of like the NCAA tournament, that when I have chances to flip around to other games, you're going to let me do it. I know why they do it this way. I don't think it makes sense. They sell these games as standalone national TV windows. I still think you do yourself a disservice. Your younger audience is at school, your older audience is at work. That city's fans have a tough time getting to the games. I think it's short-sighted.
That being said, remember the fans of those teams are watching those games, no matter what time those games are. Living here in Atlanta, the Braves are not in the playoffs. Are you compelled to watch a 3 o'clock game by two teams that you don't know about? Probably not.
But I might be more compelled at 7:30 at night to watch
100%,
some of it.
100%. But these have already been pre-sold. Remember that. These games, this package has already been pre-sold before the teams were determined. And if it really affected the bottom line numbers, the dollar amounts, not the viewership, but the dollar amounts, they would move them all tonight. So the deal itself, the package they've put together, obviously is at the point where Major League Baseball is happy with it. They don't mind a dip in viewership. And it'll be interesting to see, with streaming and everything going on, what the actual numbers are for this format. And again, other than the Dodgers series, they all went to all went to 3 games.
Yeah.
And last night's game had 2 rookie pitchers doing amazing stuff. And so baseball's moving in the right direction, and I was exciting to watch these last few days of baseball playoffs.
The drama's been good. So here are some numbers on baseball's TV viewership throughout the season. 2025 saw Fox have about 2 million viewers for their national window, which I think is each Saturday night. That was up 9%. ESPN, 1.8 million per their telecast. That was up 21%. TNT, which they have the TBS and the TNT games, those were up 29%, about 460,000 viewers per game, and the MLB Network's games were up about 260,000 viewers, so up 13%. Now, if I said those numbers in front of Roger Goodell, he would kind of snicker off to the side because baseball is not in the same world when it comes to the NFL. So we're talking about apples and oranges in some degree, but you and I have discussed this, and I'm going to get into this in a minute. With baseball's new TV deal, and I think you said it perfectly, they're foregoing the chance to build back to a national sport and being okay with more local and regionalized by kind of breaking up the TV deal with all these different partners to get more money rather than putting them on potentially bigger platforms for less dollars.
So what Manfred looks like he's trying to do is ESPN drops out after this year. So he's trying to find replacements where he can make the money and do the things that he needs to do. All the different deals he's put together are all expiring at the same time in 2028. The goal is that baseball's on an uptick. He now has the leverage to put together a deal similar to that of the NFL and the NBA where he can put it into one thing instead of putting in these different types of entities. But only time will tell. Again, it's a smart move if it works out, and it's not a smart move if it doesn't work out. But there's a method behind their madness, and they've made up some of the money they've lost by ESPN by doing it this way. And I think the goal is to do what the NFL did and do this big deal with some of these little sub deals on the side.
So let's talk about that, because here's some of the way the new TV deal is going to look at baseball. Netflix is now in the mix with baseball. They have exclusive streaming rights to next season's opening night matchup, which will only be 2 teams. Everybody else will play the next day. So Yankees and Giants will open on Netflix March 25th of 2026 from Oracle Park, standalone game. Then everybody else will begin on Thursday. As far as what else Netflix gets, they have exclusive rights to the Home Run Derby for the next 3 seasons. They'll share broadcast of a few special location games, Field of Dreams game. They'll have a couple of other one-offs too. Netflix and baseball are signing a 3-year deal, which has been reportedly worth between $225 and $250 million annually. So we'll stop there and keep going. What do you think about Netflix finally? They fought this for a while. They got into boxing. They've gotten into some one-off events, now really getting into the mainstream sports.
Smart move. We knew it was going to happen, and I think it's something that's great for Netflix. The concern is for the average fan. Now you have to subscribe. If you're not already a subscriber to Netflix, it becomes a viable part of sports. And so it's a big deal, and it's smart by Major League Baseball. Again, they're trying to make up for the lost money they had with ESPN, who's the giant in the media world. And so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, but I'm glad Netflix is doing this. And as long as they continue to do it and provide quality viewership, I think it's going to open up other opportunities for Netflix to really get their hands in to becoming a major player in sports and be the next ESPN, so to speak, where they can now provide viewers top-rated entertainment.
I think the best part of the TV deal for baseball, NBC and Peacock, their streaming partner, they're going to pick up Sunday Night Baseball. So that's going to give them, on national TV, Sunday night windows, and it's pretty clear what NBC's tried to do. They've tried to have some symmetry all year long. Sunday Night Football will then morph into Sunday Night NBA, which NBC has, and then it'll go to Sunday Night Baseball. And for a lot of us of a certain age, there was a time when baseball was just on network TV, and we loved having the idea of seeing our team playing it nationally. NBC and Peacock will also get the wild card round from 2026 to 2028. ESPN will still have the first round in the final year of their deal. NBC is going to pay between $225 and $250 million per season as well. So you get that one involved. I'm hoping Rob Manfred does not make the same mistake Adam Silver made. Adam Silver, when talking about the new NBA TV deal, described their league as we're a highlights league. You know, when asked if it's bothering him that all these people now have to subscribe to all these different services, streamers, and they have to pay all this different money, his response is, you don't really have to. We're a highlight league, which all I can think of is his partners are thinking, Adam, we just spent how much with you, and you're telling people get it on highlights? I'm hoping Manfred doesn't make that same mistake.
You know, it's funny. If we go back in time, what you just read, we just spent a minute of you describing all the different media outlets that Major League Baseball is going to be on, what days, what this, what that. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And so, you go to watch certain games and you just don't know where to go and where to turn to. That's the downside. However, today's 20 and 30-year-olds,
they figure it out.
This is the way they've grown up. This is what they're used to. They're not worried about the 40 to 70-year-olds. They're not as concerned, because if you're an old school fan, you're going to find your team. They're focusing on the younger markets that they can grow with. And so it's exhausting that they do it. I think that the NBA made a mistake in making that comment about being a highlight. And by the way, It is a highlight league.
Of course it is. You can't say it, though.
No, you shouldn't say it, but you can say it once the deal's done, which is exactly what he did.
Yes, guess what? Next time around when his partners are talking about a new deal, hey, Adam, maybe not as much because we're a highlight league.
Correct.
Now, he tried to put that genie back in the bottle afterwards.
He did.
It's a little late.
Yeah, and listen, the one thing baseball isn't is a highlight league, right? I mean, baseball's a slower game.
It's a background sport. It's on while you're doing something.
Correct. And listen, there are plenty of highlights in it, but it's not the same as the NBA. So I think Major League Baseball is doing the best they can do to put the pieces together to give them a viable product that they can sell, make money, ownership's happy, and again, it streams down to the players. So as long as there's money available, players don't care. I can tell you this, as someone in the business, they don't care if they're on this network or that network. They care about playing and getting paid.
The last part of the TV deal, ESPN remains a partner with the league on a much bigger deal. They're going to license the rights to teams' out-of-market games, because remember, some of the local deals started to fall apart. So as part of the old MLB TV package, ESPN gets rights to in-market games now for the Rockies, Twins, Diamondbacks, Padres, and Guardians. That will lead to what you talked about by the end of 2028. I think they're going to try to have that kind of deal where it all falls under the umbrella of Major League Baseball with a partner, in this case ESPN, all controlling all the individual markets of games to make up for the loss of what their national deal was. So according to the reports, the 3-year deal, ESPN will pay $1.65 billion in total, matching the $550 million they were paying before. So baseball got the money.
Yeah. And baseball, listen, it was a win-win for baseball. A few months ago we talked about this and not knowing where baseball was going to go with this and what they were going to do financially. And it all worked out. I mean, they found different ways to put this together, and it's good for baseball. And I agree with you. Some of these smaller markets that were struggling to find partners now have a bigger partner. And in 2028, they're going to put it in one big package and allow this to become one big conglomerate and follow, hopefully, in the footsteps of the National Football League and the NBA.
Okay, coming up, we're going to find out how much Hadley is into Bad Bunny, how much he knows about Tyreek Hill's future, Dana White's money, and Taylor Swift's album. I mean, where else are you going to get that? We'll talk about it next. All right, we continue with this episode of Deals and Deadlines with Hadley Engelhard. I'm Matt Chernoff. Thanks so much for checking out the program. Remember, new episodes of Deals and Deadlines drop each and every Friday wherever you get your favorite podcast, and you can watch us, and we're good looking, on the 680 The Fan YouTube channel. All right, Hadley has been begging for hours and days since he's gotten back. He's like, can we talk about Bad Bunny? And I said, fine.
I said it in Spanish.
How do you say bunny in Spanish? Point is, Bad Bunny's going to play the halftime show for the NFL, and it's always funny to me, the reaction anytime we talk about music and sports coming together. Bad Bunny is as popular as any artist worldwide, globally, and I always bring that up. What does the league want to be? Global, worldwide, younger, all the things. So maybe the reaction has to do with some thinking Taylor Swift might have been the halftime act. It's not going to be Taylor, it's going to be Bad Bunny. And you're going to have to prepare yourself for 5 months of people going, I don't know Bad Bunny, I don't listen to Bad Bunny. The league doesn't make mistakes when they do these things.
No, first of all, let's talk about Taylor Swift. I think the league
just buried the lead on Bad Bunny.
Well, no, but I think that the league felt that Taylor was going to do the halftime show. They were really working toward it, and we even talked about it, that it was happening. And people that I talked to in the inside felt it was happening. Her demands and things she needed and wanted just was too much, and they decided to move into a different direction.
Can you tell me more without telling me more?
I just think
it's not money. You don't get paid for it.
No, it wasn't a money thing, but I think some of her security issues, some of her performance issues, some of her
production
stage
costs,
issues, production costs, I just think it became too overwhelming, and there was not a middle point that they can meet. So now we have to go back to Bad Bunny. So for our listeners out there that don't know, Rock Nation and Jay-Z is partners with the NFL for the halftime show. So you have somebody who's thinking about it from a different perspective, and he knows how to put on a performance and a show. And so they're not targeting, like we just talked about earlier, the 40 to 60-year-old guy watching the game. They want to get the young generation further involved in football. They also want to go international. Having someone like Bad Bunny, if you don't know him, you don't have to be a fan of his, but he is not only a award winner musically, acting, commercials, everything. He's really a global iconic figure. And so it's a risky move because it's not the norm, but the NFL knows what they're doing, and we're talking about it now. You can hear a lot of negative stuff about it. I guarantee you come to the show, whether you understand what he's saying or not, how he dresses, there are going to be some political concerns. But I think it's going to be entertaining. He's entertaining, and they may have some other acts involved. And you just got to put your faith in Jay-Z and the group that has put this together, that they know what they're doing.
What's your favorite Bad Bunny song, Hadley?
I don't have a favorite Bad Bunny song.
I'm sorry, I just had to do it. Okay.
No bueno.
All right. So you mentioned Taylor Swift. You also wanted to, you put this in. Taylor's new album, Life of a Showgirl, is out now. It dropped, as we record this on Friday, it dropped last night. So all 14-year-old girls in Hadley are very excited about Taylor dropping her new album. She will also, by the way, be the sole guest on Late Night with Seth Meyers October 8th. To do a whole conversation about the release of the album. So do you have the DVR set?
I do not have the DVR set, but listen, I'm not a fan of Taylor Swift musically, but I am the biggest fan of her business-wise. She has built a brand. She knows what she's doing. Her team around her has enabled her to be iconic and global, and she's smart about the things she does. And that's why I felt she would have been the perfect, because of her engagement now to Travis Kelce, that her doing the halftime show. She also may have felt there was some sort of conflict if they don't make it, and she's going to be uncomfortable doing it. So, but listen, more power to her and her fans that she's doing all the stuff, and I'm sure the album is going to do well. And as Andrew's wife told us, she gave her multiple fire emojis. Sure. That it was
those
fire.
Who are wondering, Andrew, by the way, is our producer of the program, Andrew Gruber. So I did see this. Taylor took to Twitter when the album dropped, and she wrote, "Tonight, all these lives converge. Here, the mosaics of laughter and cocktails of tears." She said, "Where fraternal souls sing identical things, and it's beautiful, it's rapturous, it's frightening." So that's the intro.
You think she wrote that, or do you think somebody else wrote that?
I'm going to give Taylor that she has poetic license to do this. She does write a very intimate song about Travis. That I have a 14-year-old daughter, you have 14-year-old daughters. I'm just saying it's a little much, Tay-Tay. A little much. Okay, you and I grew up as big boxing fans at a time when boxing was a mainstream big deal. We know for a million reasons it's not that anymore. Well, leave it to Dana White, who has made UFC as mainstream as it gets, who has now started a new boxing venture called Zuffa Boxing, which has landed a 5-year deal with CBS and their streamer Paramount Plus. Now, the deal comes just weeks after the UFC struck a separate $7.7 billion media rights deal with Paramount, so you could see, hey, this is going to be a part of it. So what this is, Hadley, is these will be young, up-and-coming boxers facing off with each other to start building some name recognition, to building some of their fame, have them on the come-up. By the time that they're big enough, you know who's going to be the one who's going to see this through, and it's going to be Dana White to have him fighting on some big either pay-per-views or whatever it looks like, similar to UFC. So he's trying to reclaim some boxing magic.
Yeah, and I think Dana White growing up was a boxing fan and saw a way with UFC and mixed martial arts to take it to the next level, and he's done it. And now he's parlaying his leverage to bring boxing back, hopefully to where it once was. And the key is, again, this whole theme of the show is the 40, 50, 67-year-olds are into old boxing, the 20 and 30-year-olds are not, because there hasn't been for many years. So by doing it this way and having Dana White supporting it and producing it and putting these types of shows together, I think will bring viewership up for boxing. And my hope, and like yours, is that people get back to watching boxing, because to me, there's nothing like the sport of boxing. In its heyday, there was nothing better, and I hope we can get back to where it was, and I think Dana White is the right person to lead the charge.
I have doubts that it'll ever be what it was to that level. I just don't know how much room we have, right? I mean, it's all about time and expense. If we just kept it to mixed martial arts, you have the wrestling fan, you have a million other sports, and only, again, so many hours in the day that I think we can get some one-offs. I do. I think we can have a Saturday night of like, oh, this one just happens to hit. But I think boxing has hurt itself with some of the gimmicky stuff. We're going to have Jake Paul fighting Mike Tyson, right? Now we're talking about Floyd Mayweather and Mike Tyson. I think when you sort of gimmicky up and you make fun of your own sport just to get the one night of ratings, it's hard to get that fan who was, again, boxing was a serious thing that at all weight levels that you would like dig into. I don't know that we ever get back to that again.
And I don't disagree. The reason I hope it becomes that way is it's a true sport, and there's so much history behind it, and so many great fighters that are iconic and became commercialized, and they've gone, right? A lot of them have passed away. So it'll be great to see it happen. I'm with you. The Jake Paul gimmicks are enough is enough. This generation, this young generation, loves this UFC, loves the action. Wrestling is at a peak if it's ever been. So I'm hoping, like you, it becomes something. If it doesn't become what it once was, it's better than it is today, and that's my hope with that Dana White can do that.
And if that doesn't work, I would tell you all slap fighting. It's a whole nother thing.
I saw that actually.
I mean,
once.
it's something. It is.
I'm shocked that's on the Ocho.
So I'm not going to lie. I've had some nights on a Friday or Saturday where a bunch of neighbors are together and you've had a couple of drinks. You're like, let's watch the slap fighting. So I'm not proud of it. I am proud to tell you guys you can subscribe to this podcast wherever it is you get your favorite pods. Just search Deals and Deadlines. If you're watching us on our 680 The Fan YouTube channel, subscribe there. And again, new episodes will drop each and every Friday depending on the World Traveler schedule. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks to the aforementioned Andrew Groover. Thanks for joining us on Deals and Deadlines.